I love to get, I love to hear your process. And this is such a great thing for all the clients at the studio to hear this, because a lot of them know you, but we have a lot of new people that don't. And they really should know who you are. So I wanted to ask you, tell us, okay, from the beginning, what got you into music and what led you up to right now where you are? So go ahead. I know it's a tall order, but go ahead.
No, it's okay. Yeah. So, I mean, for me, I was always like, as a kid, just very quiet and like introverted and like just to myself. And I had like kind of a lot going on at home. It was pretty like hectic, and there was just always like arguing and noise and things like that. And I remember being like really young, my older brother, to try to help me get out of the house when there was like a lot of arguing and whatnot going on. He'd be like, hey, let's like, you want to take a drive? Let's take a drive. And we would take a drive, and he would just play me his CDs he had. And it would be like anything from like Seal or Prince to like Led Zeppelin to like whomever. And I'd sit in the car and like read the credits, and I'd want to know like who did what and how they did what. And I remember wanting to just learn how to do any of that because I just love music so. And so I started, I wanted piano lessons. My family didn't give me lessons at the time. So basically I found, wherever I found a piano, I would play. So like if it were in school, in the like cafeteria, they would have one, or they would in the the auditorium, they would have one.
Yeah.
And wherever, and I would just go until I learned to play. And I started writing like around 6 or so, like playing piano, and then just like really wanting to do it and not knowing how, but just, I think it's kind of like even that led me into producing, because it was always like, well, a song is comprised of all these different elements, so someone has to do this thing. So like, I need to learn how to do this so I can, like, it was always like, oh, who's gonna like play on the song? I guess I should learn how to play piano. Oh, who's gonna write the song? I guess I should learn to write. Who's gonna sing the song? I guess I should learn to sing a bit. Who's gonna do the whatever to it? And I remember when I was in high school, I started actually just before, like maybe when I was like 14 or so, my grandmother got me a keyboard, and it had like, it was like a really kind of crappy keyboard, and it had whatever sounds, but like it had like a record function, so I could like get into just laying multiple tracks on top of each other. But that was like kind of it at the time. And I remember around 16, I did a spoken word piece at school. And then after that, I got asked to do another performance at an assembly. So what I did was, I was like, well, I wrote this song, and I found someone on campus who could sing the song, the chorus. And then I found someone else who was like a rapper. Then I found someone else to beatbox, and I was like, hey, you guys, I want to do this like thing for the assembly. So I played piano, and I put together this thing to the song I wrote. And now someone who's like a really close friend of mine, Nick Tantardini, found me after the performance in the band room. And he was like, hey, like, I saw what you did. Have you ever used like computer software to like do this kind of a thing? Like, I know you're producing, but have you ever done it? And I was like, no, I don't like have a computer or anything like this. So I went over his house, and he had Reason, and I started just producing with him every day after school, and then through the whole summer and whatever, learning and, doing that whole thing. And I remember when I was probably like 18 or something like that, at the time, the Underdogs were like a really big production team. They're still a big production team, but they were doing like a bunch of stuff. And we were like, you know what, we got to get their attention, because we found out that they had an office, which is now Real Songs for Diane Warren off of Cahuenga. It used to be where they worked. So he was like, you know what, we got to like get somebody's attention, because like our production is like, is great. We got to get known. We got whatever. So I remember standing in front of that building and like trying to wave somebody down to come listen to like the CD of tracks that we made.
Yeah.
And finally, someone came down, and they took the CD and they took it back up. We stayed outside. So they took
Yeah.
it out into the building, and we watched them come back down. They're like, dude, these are literally like garbage. Like, I can't use any of these. These are so bad. And I remember thinking to myself, like my world was shattered, but they were right. But
Yeah.
they were right. So it's like that, having someone say like, hey, this isn't it, go and do better, was like huge for me. And then I became obsessed with like, I have to be better. It cemented in my mind, like, if I want to be like all these people I look up to, like Pharrell or like Max Martin or Ryan Tedder or whoever, like my stuff has to sound just as good in some respect, like from a quality place, as any of these people. You know,
Right.
I can't, there's no way I could go in a room and be like, I want to be like these people and play something and not have it, like, have people be like, I don't know. So I just really became obsessed with just trying my best to be as good as I could. And I remember I was living in Long Beach at my grandmother's house after I got out of high school. And I was going to Long Beach State, producing music for some of the on-campus TV stations, like segments or whatever.
Okay, yeah.
Which was cool. And I was like doing sessions in LA. So I would take, the dog's making noise. I would take trains, like the blue line, the bus to the blue line to the whatever, to get to every session. I had a giant 88 key keyboard. I should have gotten a smaller keyboard, but I thought I was doing whatever. So I was carrying this giant keyboard to all these sessions, and just really just busting ass. And then eventually I ended up meeting Nietzsche, one of my partners in Jenga.
Yeah.
I ended up meeting her through this production team that I kind of started working under, and they were working on her project. They were like, hey, we have this artist that we're working with. We need like some more like production. Could you come on board? So we all just started working, like she and I, and we did like sessions. It went well. And then come to find out, her and her brother had a studio next door to where I was working. And as I started working with that production team, they got really busy, and I ended up getting kind of my own clients. And so I like needed a space to work out of, and I couldn't get into my like the studio with them. So I went to Nietzsche and Jim. I was like, hey, you know, could I like bring some of my clients here to work? And I started working there with them, just like on little things here and there. And then actually one of our friends, this manager, Frisco, was at the time working for Beluga Heights, which is like J.R. Rodom's company. And they were doing, this is when they were doing like everything that they were doing, like Beautiful Girl with Sean Kingston and like all that. It was like that time. So I remember him being like, hey, if you want to like submit tracks for our artists, like, you know, feel free. And we were like, well, maybe we should like work on some stuff together. So we started writing songs and like doing things to pitch to our friend. But as we started, we developed a workflow. We were like, maybe we should like form a company. And so we started Jenga Productions kind of that way. And, you know,
very naturally.
Yeah, just like from working, you know.
Yeah.
Sometime like we were still in that small studio, and around the time we ended up changing locations, around the time I ended up working there over at PSW, and just being a part of that community there and that family there has just been incredible, you know. And so around like those times, we also ended up changing studios again to where we are currently, which is the former Black Eyed Peas studio.
Yeah, Glendale. Beautiful place. I love it there. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, and we're here now. We're just, you know, we've been working with, you know, some artists like Sign, some independent, like whatever the case may be. Just doing the thing, you know. So
let me ask you this real quick. Thank you for that. Let me ask you, not if there's a preference, whether you like working with independent artists or signed artists, because the reason I'm asking is like maybe the labels have a preconceived notion of what the artist should sound like. And an independent is more open to options and more open to experimentation, where, you know, like certain labels were, you know, will require the band to sound like what they signed them on, rather than, or if it's a new band and it's a baby band or a baby artist that they're trying to, you know, they may be open to trying several different producers before they find the right fit or whatever. What do you prefer, or you don't have a preference? It's all like, is it case by case, or is it like, you know, tell me your view on that.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think it's definitely case by case in general. I like to work with artists that are, it's exciting when you work with someone who's trying to find the sound, because then you can kind of just experiment together and figure that out. But also, it's also really cool to work with someone who feels really like good about, you know, the direction that they want to point in. I think in general, just working with artists that are open is what I tend to enjoy the best, because I'm very much not a person, I don't like go into things like thinking like, how do I like just recreate this thing or whatever. And sometimes that happens, like especially like if you get a song that like does well or something like that. Like I've run into that recently where, you know, then it's people are like, just give me like another one of like these songs that you just did. And it's like, you think about it, it's like, yeah, but when I did that song, I didn't go into it thinking, let me just copy a thing. I just probably just did a thing and saw what came out, you know? And so I think in that way, I think just working with artists that are open would be my preference. But signed, I think that comes both ways, because sometimes you work with someone who is signed and maybe like their first album was this way, but maybe they're trying to change it up or whatever. You know, but it is harder though, to a degree, when there's already been an established thing, because then it's like, how do you make the thing that like cuts through? And I know so many of us, you know, like producers and writers, we've all seen the like who's looking list or whatever, where it's like, this person's looking for, I don't know, big pop anthems with, I don't know, reggae influence or something like that. But then maybe you hear the single the person puts out and it's like an alt rock song with country influence. And then you're like, what am I supposed to do with that? So I think at the end of the day, if you just make something that the artist is excited about, if you're like fortunate to work with the artist, then that trumps the rest of it.
Yeah, rather than just writing a bunch of songs and submitting them for artists that are looking for material.